results. Good. So that's the articles to just kind of kick us off this morning. So let me run you through what I have on my watch list. Eurocad is still at the top of my list today. I'm not a big believer that it is going to fall short. I'm not a big believer that this thing is going to move in the direction that we think it is telling us it's trying to, because it's had a lot of issues since yesterday. Now, if you remember yesterday, we have this divergence that set in after it ended up pushing down. What time is that at? At about 7:45. So once that divergence set in, I used that new low of day to create a zone, and look at how it rejects that zone multiple times. So now any short idea today, after rejecting the zone almost here last night, any short idea today is going to be read with risk reward to this zone, not anticipating it to break through. But I also see this divergence, and I know what a D2 entry is. Now, the D2 is one of the signals that we teach in our courses. If you don't have the courses, we have 2 days left until the summer sale ends. So I will pin that here in the chat at the top so you guys can use that link. If you're not in the courses, I want you to get that discount before the marketing team shuts it down, okay? Also, for Asfx members, I see some of you guys talking about it already. I had a lot of people sign up last night and yesterday. I sent the link out via email, in Discord, and in the Facebook group for the Saturday workshop this weekend. We're doing a virtual workshop. It's probably going to be between 1 and 2 hours. It's almost like a mini course. And in that, we're going to talk a lot about the D1 entry. So if you aren't in the courses and you want to be a part of that workshop, you've got 2 days to get in and get the discount and then be there for Saturday. And if anybody is in ASFX and if you are not available on Saturday to watch it live, I'm going to post the recap, the review of it all in your Kajabi account. So you'll be able to rewatch the entire thing. Now back to Eurocad. So this zone on top here, let me identify that for you as well, because you guys understand now this zone on the bottom comes from the low of day yesterday. Market sentiment has been very bearish. If you look at it since Tuesday it's bearish. Market sentiment yesterday is bearish. And then today, Thursday, it's also bearish. But today it's more reset than anything else. Remember Sam said, buy the course, you won't regret it. Thanks, Sam. Remember, when we see this market sentiment line near the 50 value, right here, that dotted line, that's more reset than it is full trend. So with us being in this reset position, trading between two zones and making higher lows off this divergent bottom, I'm not loving the short ideas right now. Now, it's also in an upshift. 8 EMA is above the 21 EMA. We broke the 50 at 6 o'clock this morning, and we've been using the 50, the blue line in here, as support all morning. So to me, this is not ready to come lower, not yet at least. Now, this zone, again, where does that come from? Well, let's go all the way back. And actually, let's go to the 1 hour because you'll see it better. So here's where we're at today over here. This zone goes back to where we were seeing the long move off of it last week. You go back past that into the beginning of June 11th here, and then even the first week of June, you've got a head and shoulders off this zone. If I go back even further, another pin to the zone. If I go back even further into May, another hit off that zone. And then at the beginning of May even, we have a big head and shoulders formation using this blue zone as the neckline. So I went all the way back. And then as you can see, really before that, it wasn't being used at all in April. But this zone has been very significant since May. So seeing how more of the time since the beginning of May, more of the time than not, price action is above this zone, I'm not going to be wanting to short this thing anytime we're near this zone, because every time we've been near it, it's bounced up off it. Now, someone will say to me, Austin, it's below the zone today. Why wouldn't you potentially want to take it short? You can if the entry presents itself, for sure. But what I want to tell you is that if you were to look, let's say you could fast forward 3 weeks into the future. Let's say this holds here and comes up towards the 800 EMA right here. See, ADR is 82 pips. So this could rise to 147.50 today or by tomorrow, or into next week. Either way, let's say it doesn't go any lower. Let's say it holds here and bounces. What would you say? You look back at all the hits to this zone and you would say, oh, no wonder it bounced because it was such a significant price level. So to me, it's got to be a great short entry for us to want to go short today, because now not only are we showing slowing at the zone, but we've got bullish divergence in play, like I said, that then feeds the D2 idea. So this is your bottom. This is the higher low. So now what we can do, instead of just circling it like that, which is not really proper analysis, we're going to draw a zone here, the 2 candles to the left and the 2 candles to the right of this initial push down, 1, 2 to the right are not lower, 1, 2 to the left are not lower. That's the zone that we would also look to trade to. So again, now seeing this support zone as the higher low, I know it could retest this and come higher. So if I was to take it short today, this would be the zone in my way as well. So you've got both levels of support underneath you that are ruining you getting potentially 2 to 1. Now, that should make sense to everybody. If it doesn't, put a question in the comments. Go look at GBP CHF. Now you can see what the 7 a.m. bank rate statement did. Look at the 7 a.m. news. It's high impact. So we know through the Asfx courses, we would never want to take trades into high impact news. What blows my mind consistently with this GBP event that always happens, I think it's once a week or once a month. I think it's once a month. With this statement, it stays the same all the time. Let's see how often this comes out. May 6th, March 18th, November, December. Yeah. So it's not every month. So here, when it comes out though, every time I've seen this, it always stays the same, but the market goes crazy as if it didn't expect it. So disregard this push down here that came in on the news. We'll talk about that in a second. Go back to yesterday. You guys remember we had a pretty heated debate yesterday, which ended up playing out in my favor. Not that it made me any money, but I ended up helping James avoid a loss yesterday because he was trying to buy this, and I felt that it couldn't move higher. It was showing too much resistance. So we draw the zone at yesterday's high. 2 candles to the left, 2 candles to the right are not higher. It shifted down in here yesterday, which kind of killed the long ideas, in my opinion. Even as it shifts up again here, I didn't like that for longs because the entry on the 1 minute came as you were in a downshift, and that's just not that great. We know that, right? We know that decreases the probabilities. So here, when we see the resistance there, we see it come back and actually test the low of day, test the consolidation zone from the previous day. That overnight would not necessarily kill your long ideas, but you don't want to ignore the zone that it rejected yesterday. It tried to get into the zone twice yesterday here, and it couldn't do it. Overnight, same exact level. If I draw a line here, it's the same level. It tries to get above it, it can't. When it finally pops here, what ends up happening is it ends up coming right back down. Again, by the time I'm awake, 5:30, 5:45, this is back under this zone. To me, I can't buy this into this zone. I could only buy this if it was above that zone because it's just so close. It screws up your risk reward. On top of that, the reason this is so important is because I don't want you to get swayed by just a perfect market sentiment line. You can see market sentiment has been bullish since yesterday on this. It has not touched the sell zone. It dropped into reset overnight as price action slowed down, but this does not go bearish at all on the TDI. So just because you have a bullish TDI does not mean you should just be buying it. On top of that, I like to look at other GBP pairs before I take a GBP trade. So let's say we were interested in buying GBP CHF from down here, right? Even though it shifted down, which kills your long ideas in my opinion, you could still look for D1s under the 50. I looked over at the other GBP pairs. I looked at GN. This looked very bearish. Look at the TDI. Look at price action. You had this big 100 pip pin at the end of the day yesterday. So I thought this could continue moving lower after yesterday's move down. And now news ends up shoving it even lower. So that was bearish to me. I look over at GJ. GJ also looked very bearish to me because I saw the falling RSI. I saw the rising price action. I saw it broke under the 50, tried to get above the 50, could not, was underneath the 50 for the second time before news, which tells me this probably goes to the 200 as this L50 falls into the sell zone, and now it's through the 800 even further because news shoved it lower. But either way, the point here is that this was bearish. So I'm looking at the other GBP pairs. I'm looking at GA. Market sentiment here is very bearish. So all these GBP pairs are bearish going into the news, except GBP CHF. So that was another reason this morning why I wasn't super in love with the idea of trying to buy GBP CHF, but it was still on my list because that market sentiment line was still bullish. That's why it made the list. Now, Euro NZD is something we definitely need to talk about because it's super important. We have two sets of bullish divergence that cannot be ignored. First, you can see on the left side here, yesterday's bullish divergence at ADR. On top of that, market sentiment stays bearish. You see the yellow liquid 50 is holding in the sell zone, but price action today struggles with the Asia low. If you draw the zone at the Asia low, where the two candles to the left, two candles to the right are not higher, or excuse me, are not lower. See this? Two candles to the right are not lower. Two candles to the left are not lower. So this is my pin. Look at how many times it rejects that zone. Anytime you would want to trade with price action at this zone, I would not take the trade until the zone is actually broken. On top of that, not just as in an Asia low, it's got bullish divergence. If it didn't have bullish divergence, this would already be falling. But the fact that not only do you have it today, but you have it present from yesterday, that tells you that there's the potential for change here. Now, of course, more likely than not, this still falls lower today. But I don't like taking short trades that are low probability. I don't trade low probability setups. With the bullish divergence here, with the support that it's showing at the Asia low, I would not look to short this until it gets under the Asia low, under the divergence line, retests it, and on that second leg lower, that's where I would go look to take this short. Nothing before that because this could easily just chop sideways here as the market sentiment line starts to rise today. So yes, very clear short bias based on market sentiment, based on the EMAs, based on the price action yesterday, but with the bullish divergence, 2 sets of it present, that's another thing that I would definitely just not ignore. Asia range is still valid, but it's just having a lot of issues with that support. So there, Euro NZD struggling to come lower. So the play on the NZDs was, in my opinion, GN. You have a shift bar off the 21 EMA. The only problem with that shift is the RSI was not in proper position for an A1 entry. So to me, that's not it's not to me. Based on our systems, that's not a signal. So here, if there was some 1 minute divergence to take it lower, you could have tried to short it. But even if you look at this price action on the 1 minute, this RSI is not falling. It's flat. I would not say that RSI is falling. Price is rising, but even there, your 50 EMA retests happen before news. So you'd be trading a GBP pair before high impact news, and that's not what I like to do, like you guys know, because some of these high impact news events, they go crazy. It creates volatility that doesn't even match the news numbers. So that's why it's important to not trade into high impact news. Either way, Eurocad has a lot of value for us just using those support zones that are significant over the last couple of weeks. And I do think now that you're seeing it rise, you're seeing it make higher lows, I think we can easily see this come up to the 200 EMA. And from there, if it bodies the 200, you will see it rise towards the 800. Sam said, learning so much from marking up these potential trades and adding them to the sheet. I love it, Sam. Absolutely, bro. Let's shrink this down a little bit.